So there's a laundry list of addictive patterns, right? So there's obviously there are the classical ones, right? Drugs, alcohol, sex. I would say even work has become a classic addictive pattern. There is also the addictive patterns to exercise, to supplementation or biohacking. Nowadays, I would say there's an addictive pattern to actually wanting to become more conscious, to wanting to become more woke. We're like addicted to healing, addicted to, man, I would really love if tomorrow I just became conscious of everything and my entire life would change. And I'm not saying you can't have an epiphany or a revelation. And what I am saying is that in order to create a life that feels fundamentally, naturally, sustainably different from the life previous, typically it's not going to happen in one therapy session, in one ayahuasca ceremony, in one neurofeedback session. It takes time. It takes sustainable action taken on a daily basis to create new wiring that feels like a very, very different life. I would say that there is addictive patterns to, there's social media. There's definitely social media. I think that maybe one of the biggest addictive patterns we have at work, and maybe one of the most pathological, maybe one of the most problematic, maybe one of the most terrifying addictive patterns at work today, controlling most of our lives, is this need to prove ourselves worthy. And I say need intentionally because we have made it a need, when reality is we are all already worthy. We were all already good enough. And we live in our life today in a way that absolutely confirms daily, moment to moment, that we are not worthy. The fact that we actually feel like we have to prove ourselves worthy is confirming some skewed script that we are not worthy. And so therefore, we have to constantly go back to proving ourselves worthy because we don't feel worthy. And the very nature of us feeling like we have to prove ourselves worthy keeps this pattern spinning. Likely because we're always trying to do things superficially, on the surface, externally. We're always wanting to prove ourselves. And the very nature of us wanting to prove ourselves, the very action, the very behavior of us wanting to prove ourselves keeps us in this loop. And we have more ways than ever today to keep this loop going. For the first time in all of history, we are more connected and yet more disconnected than ever. It's this wild contradiction. We have more ways to connect with each other and more ways to abandon the connection of the presence, to abandon who we are, this true essence, who we want to become. And so if we're constantly abandoning that and wanting to prove ourselves worthy, it's a never-ending cycle. It'll never stop until we recognize, hey, we're already good as we are. And when we do that and we can feel it, our world will shift. Now, we're going to have to continue aligning our actions and behaviors on a daily basis so that we can support that shift that we experienced, that revelation that we experienced, that epiphany that we had, so that we strengthen the wiring around that new way of seeing ourselves and the world.